Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to be here with you today for White Women, Why Interracial Sisterhood Should Be New Year's Resolution number 1. So if you're joining us, please put in the chat your name, where you're joining us from, and how you are feeling today. And thank you so much for being here, Future, Montrese, Corey, Randy. How are you feeling today?
It's always a toss-up on who's going to answer first. I'm feeling really excited for this conversation.
I am as well. I appreciate the invitation to be here.
Likewise.
I will fourth that, Karen.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody who's joining us on our different destinations, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, etc. We wanted to have a chat today because we recently held our first Interracial Sisterhood retreat, and we're so delighted that some of the women who were able to come, yay, I see a LinkedIn user saying yay, we are streaming, were able to join us today for this very important conversation because we heard from so many people who really wanted to come to the Interracial Sisterhood retreat, but were unable to. So we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to hear about some of the experiences that we had and what we learned at the Interracial Sisterhood retreat. So could we go around and everybody introduce ourselves briefly, and then we'll get into what were some highlights from the retreat.
Stand off again. I am Future Kane. I'm the CEO and founder of Future of SEL and co-facilitator for the Interracial Sisterhood retreats.
Montrese, you want to go?
Sure. Can you remind me of what I feel like you asked us to say a little bit more, Karen.
Oh, sure. Just to introduce yourself and say where you're joining us from.
Yes, that was it. Okay, thank you. I'm Montrese Payton Hardy, and I'm executive director for VersaVox Consulting, and I am joining from Houston, Texas.
Awesome. Randy?
Hello, my name is Randy Seidner. I am joining you from Sebastopol, California, Northern California.
And Corey?
Hi, everybody. Corey Schroeder here. I am joining you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Excellent. And this is really representative. We have more participants at the retreat. And it was very, very diverse from all different parts of the country, ranging in age from 30s to 70s, all different kinds of professions and lived experiences. And we're just so honored that you all joined. And as we start this new year, how are women feeling? And this includes people who are joining us online. Put in the chat how you are feeling and any of your thoughts and reflections as we begin this new year. What's on your mind, Future King?
I think I'm both, and that's the world I function in all the time. As you personally know, because I keep telling you this, I'm exhausted. I didn't get as much rest as I would have hoped to get over the holiday break at the end of December and easing into January, while also I sit in a lot of gratitude and appreciation for what is upcoming in 2024 too.
Awesome.
I got that both and terminology from Future, and I cannot stop using it. So thank you. Because I believe it was the piece that I was looking for. I too I'm pretty tired, and I feel like I keep recovering from illnesses that just won't go away. Um, and at the same time, I am beyond ecstatic. I keep hearing amazing affirmative messages of getting ready to soar in 2024. So I'm excited for all of what that looks for, especially in regards to this conversation.
Soar in 2024. I love that, Montrese. I mean, whew, there's so much, and I have so much excitement for what Interracial Sisterhood is going to bring, and I honestly, truly believe that we are going to change the world with this, what we're trying to do and what we're going to do. So I have so much gratitude and excitement for what's to come.
Corey?
I would say for me, it's a both and as well. And I think tired, yes, but also empowered. I really left the retreat feeling like there's things that I wanted to do, and 2024 is the year that they're going to happen. So feeling pretty empowered about it.
Excellent. So I'd love to hear from folks about highlights from the retreat and the key learnings that you took away. And maybe let's popcorn this. How about we'll go to you, Randy?
Oh, gosh, there was so much. There was so much. The few things that really I go back, think about and go back to are, well, the role-playing exercise that we did, it was profound and powerful. And I learned so much from witnessing what went on there. But the biggest thing was when we first met that morning, when we came down for breakfast, and how we all gathered around that table. And there were 5 people there when I got there. And by the end, everybody was there. And we didn't go to separate tables. Everybody came to that one table, and we just kept moving our chairs out to make room. And it was an organic action. There was no question about whether we weren't allowing everybody at that table. And that, to me, set the stage. I mean, I have chills just thinking about it. It was so, the organic conversation, the thoughtfulness, the listening and the holding, the safety, that it just set the stage for the entire weekend. And it was, and the weekend revealed the true potential of sisterhood, I believe. So yeah, I will stop there. Thank you.
Montrese?
I knew I was next. And Randy, you took mine. That's exactly where I was going to go. Surprisingly, out of all of the amazing moments, I was going to say also that the conversation around the board table, the name of the work location is slipping my mind. So Karen or Future, please pop that in. But the conversations around that and your presentation, that was a huge learning point for me. I appreciated the content that you all delivered, and I also appreciated the intentionality. There was so much intimacy created in the space, and I'm grateful for the relationships that I'm still maintaining with other individuals that I met there. But it was very intentional, from how we navigated to the time we spent, even if we went over, and everyone's voice counted. So thank you all for that.
Thank you. It's Quest Workspaces. So shout out to Quest Workspaces. We love you. And Kimpton Epic in Miami. We are sending you so much love too.
Corey, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I think it's funny because we're kind of building on each other. So Montrese, you took mine, which was like the intentionality piece, but also like trust. Trust is hard to build. And so to walk into a room of strangers, for me, everyone was a stranger, and feel a sense of trust and a space to be vulnerable, like that's really difficult to do. And I was pleasantly surprised because of the intentionality, how easy it was to build trust, like right off the bat. And so that was a major takeaway for me.
One of the things that I sit to build on what everybody said was it the first night or the second night? Obviously, the hope and the dream was you all would form relationships. And we didn't know whether people would want to go back to your room and like cry underneath your blankets of what you just heard and experience of, oh my gosh, I need to like sit with myself and get myself together and I don't need to be by anybody. Or if people were going to say, hey, I'm meeting one of the people and maybe we'll sit and chat and go out to dinner. And then it amassed to a larger group of the women that are at the retreat are literally going out to dinner together, and not just one of the nights, but like several of the nights immediately, which was, I'm sure, I don't know if any of you walked into the retreat thinking, hey, the first night or the second night, I'm going to go out to dinner and I'm going to hang out with these women for hours to just talk because I feel like I really know them. In reality, I don't and have never met them before in my life.
Yeah, honestly, just to piggyback on that real quick, if it's okay. I believe that at this stage of my life, it is very difficult to make friends. And I was blown away that there was just such a comfort with other women. And it was so beautiful that everyone was very much so transparent and willing to share their stories and who they were. There was one that we didn't talk a whole lot before this, but within minutes of communicating with each other, we were crying. And that was such a heartwarming experience that I will hold on to forever. So really grateful for that.
Mhm. And I just have to say, shout out to Future Kane, because Future Kane is so blessed and endowed with this incredible emotional intelligence about how to be intentional about forming space and welcoming everybody, like sending the 10 emails in advance of the event. I felt like really got everybody in the right mindset as they walked in. They felt totally ready to be there and ready for this experience. And I think that that made a huge difference.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. I didn't do it alone, right? A lot of the intentionality that everybody obviously felt, you couldn't see it. It's kind of like faith. There's things that you can't necessarily see. You might not be able to touch it or hear it, but it is evident that it was felt by all of you, which was the exact purpose of what we wanted. We wanted it to be felt and to leave an imprint so that you could hold it in your heart and then ripple and radiate it out to other beings you come in contact with on a daily basis. That's the whole purpose of sisterhood.
Correct. And as we think about our theme for today, why white women, why New Year's resolution number one should be interracial sisterhood, I think that it is that, for me as a white woman, growing up, like I did not have those kinds of experiences with white women friends. I had one super close white woman friend from childhood that we're still friends with, but I see a lot of cliques and competition and individualism among white women that carries on into adulthood. And I think that does make it difficult for first of all, white women to earn trust, and also to even form really deep, meaningful relationships. At one point, we did an exercise
Karen, I just
where
want to build on.
Sure.
Sorry, I think there's a delay with my video. I just want to build on something that you said as white women, and the retreat wasn't about, you know, I want to be in a space with global majority women as a white woman, and it's not about, you know, interracial sisterhood isn't about I've got friends of the global majority. What we're really trying to do, and I think we were successful with at the retreat, is deep, deep connection and understanding a person's lived experience as best as we can as white women. And so, like, as you said, and as another white woman, like the sense of community, right? We don't do this work in a vacuum. Community is where the work really happens. And so, like, I just wanted to add on to your point about the impact.
Yes. Thank you for that, Corey. At one point in the retreat, we separated into two, well, at several points, we were in affinity space of global majority women in one room, white women in another room. And at one point, we asked us to separate, and we posed two questions. What are white women behaviors that prevent trust from forming? And how do white women need to show up differently in order to earn trust? And were there any ahas from that event? I know a major aha for me, but I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. But what struck you about that particular exercise?
I'll go. I'm not going to give too much away, is what I'm going to say to everybody, because you're probably like, you're going to take my win. The thing that stuck out for me immediately was we are completely in alignment. The utter alignment of what both of, I didn't think it was going to happen, Karen, right? Like, if I was a betting person, which I don't bet, okay? I went to Vegas and I spent $1, FYI. So I'm not the person who's going to play it, because I get told fix my face often and people know where I stand. So I was in absolute awe of, I wouldn't have written it that way. I didn't think we were going to be in complete alignment, and we were in complete alignment of the things that we both said.
I was grateful that we were in alignment. I was thinking along those lines too. And to a certain extent, I was not surprised because of the caliber of awareness for some of the women, some of the white women that I had interactions with individually. So it was helpful to see and have that evidence that we were all thinking around the same things.
Yeah, alignment to me, I'm sorry, I don't have a different answer for you, but it was so powerful. I mean, just being in an affinity space and white women hearing what we were coming up with, and how we were all so grounded in what we needed to do. And then when we came together, I felt I was, had a little weeping action going, because I was worried we weren't going to, rise up to what's needed. I mean, in that moment, we weren't going to meet. I really wanted that, and maybe that was some urgency I was dealing with, but yeah, it was very powerful.
I think what is interesting is
And
that
I'll add in there too, like, The exercises that we did, the exercises that we did and the role plays were real life experiences. We didn't choose role plays that were, high level. We got into nitty gritty, deep, detailed exercises and role plays. And I think the preparation going into that of how will we respond in our affinity groups, especially as white women, how will we respond? How will we act if we've caused harm? How will we, think about how we show up in that space was super necessary to be able to have those conversations and be as aligned as we were.
I wanted to say thank you for that, Corey. And I'm sorry, am I interrupting you, Future? You go.
No, because you were first. You were first, so I'll hold what I want.
First of all, the role play that Montrese and Corey did, I will never forget. It was like an Academy Award. Like seriously, one of the most brilliant role plays I've ever seen. You two are brilliant, and that was a real highlight of the retreat for me. But I will say it was interesting to me that it's great that we're aligned. And if white women know this, then why aren't we doing it? That is the question. And I will include myself in there. If I know what the expectations are, why am I falling short? Is it that I don't care? Is it that I'm just too lazy? Or what is holding me back from meeting those expectations?
Karen, may I follow up to you real quick? Because I have a question. And Future, I know you wanted to say something. Maybe you all can help real quick. There was something that was the result of like as we were checking our alignment, but there was one thing that stood out and I can't remember what it was. I believe there was something about consideration of the impact of global majority kids. If I'm remembering correctly, do we all remember? Okay, can someone speak to exactly what that was? Because that was something where there wasn't much alignment and there was not too much awareness or thought before our role play, if you remember, Corey.
Okay, so when we had gotten into the affinity spaces, and what I wanted to say about the affinity spaces that Corey was lifting was we were intentional in setting up affinity spaces with the people who attended even before we got to the space. So we had affinity groups and checking in and setting up agreements and working through the restoration of harm even before we first met each other. I think that was an important lift because some people rush into these workshops or these facilitations and they don't build and try to have the foundation and set relationships or an understanding before that first day. So that is something that we were intentional about doing because we know that that way of doing it, I've seen, in my personal opinion, can cause even more harm. One thing that we were out of alignment, thank you for raising that, Montrese, was the people, global majority women, had raised children as one of the mistrusts. And we all know as moms, we sit here as moms. And we know that we embody and model stuff on an everyday basis. You all have to sit with yourselves to determine whether what you're modeling on a daily basis to your children, whether they're grown adults or itty bitties and really haven't picked up on much yet, is what you truly want your children to model to other humans. So that was the lift that we had talked about, that people don't understand, that we have to constantly send our children out in these communities where essentially we know that as much as we would like to be able to protect them, we can't protect them from the behaviors, whether conscious or not conscious, that then they have to receive from the people. And I'll talk about here in my state. As an educator of 2 decades, I sit here knowing, I think it's now actually increased. I think it might be 96%. 96% of educators in my state are white. Let me repeat this again. 96% of the educators in my state are white, which leaves 4% for the 68% of students that are white. So there is a huge discrepancy. So every day I know I'm sending my kids into school, and they know me already because I do speak up, because there is unintentional or intentional harm being caused that we as moms, as dads, as guardians, as much as we would love to protect our children from, we can't protect them from. But we know, that's why we're sitting here today, that if you do the work, you will start to embody something very different. And the people who are showing up in some of these spaces and faces that I can't protect my child from will show up very differently because you embody it. You don't just intellectualize it, you embody it in your very fiber of being. That is very different. And that was the disconnect that the white women, when we did the affinity spaces, did not think of, that we raised. So thank you, Montrese. Anybody else want to add something?
I know as a white woman, I can get stuck in the intellectualization, right? And trying to perform being a good white woman perfectly, as opposed to just being Karen Fleshman and striving to embody what I profess through my words in my actions. I get stuck sometimes overthinking and paralysis, which leads to inaction.
Which leads to harm.
Yes.
Which leads to trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads to deaths. Which leads to mistrust. Because we're tired of the words, right? Like this is the conversation. I could hear the I'm sorries. I could hear I'll do better. And I see you embodying the same thing. So essentially, when you choose to keep embodying the same thing and are choosing to have a posts on LinkedIn and all these social medias that maybe will be better than mine. Okay. When you could choose to speak about it better than I can. People then, what is very misleading to people and is scary to me as a global majority woman and mom, is that the herd, which mishears, I'll call it a misheard, will then follow the people who could intellectualize it so beautifully, but never, ever embody and model it. And that is scary. Because whiteness culture idolizes intellect. You're on mute, Montrese. So
I'm sorry, I'm like amening. But yes, intellect and performance.
Correct. And that's awesome to a point. The point it's not so awesome is then people don't want to look at the behaviors and the impact and the trail of spirits and soul slaughtering they've left, because they want to be perfect and intellectualize and look good and sound good. But if I actually talk to the people who are in community with that person, they will tell me, or at least the global majority people or some of them, then they will tell you firsthand that person ain't embodying anything. They're actually harmful. So that's where we're saying, we're asking people, actions do speak louder than words, and we're tired of the words being the words and the lack there of the actions.
Yeah,
I just want to add on to that, Future, like, and I'm tying in something Karen said earlier too, which is if we as white women know, which we do, why aren't we doing anything about it? And I think one of the ways we avoid is through the intellectualization, right? We're really good at thinking through things and wanting to understand, and really like have all the details that we feel as white women we need. When in reality, it's not that hard. And if we could spend just a minute portion of the energy we spend trying to intellectualize into action, like what a vast difference that would make.
Yeah, that perfectionism, I can't do it until I could get it exactly right, I think is one of the things we white women walk with. And also minding our vibe, and that comes with really deeply unpacking our stuff, and taking time to follow the threads that need to be followed to really deeply heal our own personal wounds so we can be with our sisters and see their pain and suffering, because we can't see through ours until we clear it, right? And so I think that vibe, whether we say anything or not, future, we feel we feel each other, right? But white women coming into a space saying, we're doing this, but what's coming off of our bodies energetically, so minding our embodiment is so powerful and so important. Yeah.
Randy, I think you said that beautifully, and it sparked this for me, and the idea is still coming together, so I hope I'm able to say it quickly. But I suppose my encouragement would be keeping this in mind. What is the impact when you don't mind your vibe? And the impact is that not minding the vibe equates to hiding under your privilege. And by doing that, the impact on someone like myself is that I just feel like I'm not heard, I'm not understood, just like what Future was saying. And I don't have anyone who is ever going to support, partner with, sponsor, any of that nature. It just seems like there's so few that will actually do the work, sacrifice their privilege, and really do what is best to support us all, because our intersectionality is actually even greater than that which keeps us separate. But if white women continue to hide under their privilege and not face the pain, it won't last too long, but it is inevitable. But just face it and know that there's more community on the other side. The impact would be so great. And that's what I'm looking forward to out of these conversations and our work.
Yes. One thing I have to be very mindful of is my mindset and vibe in interracial interactions, because I can get very negative. I go into my worry, doom scrolling, hearing all the negative news, what's going to happen in 2024, all the terrible things happening all over the world, blah, 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 blah. And I go into that space. And then I'm in interaction with a Black woman who is dealing with all of that, plus all of being a Black woman in America. And I'm coming in being negative. I'm coming in being pessimistic. That is not right. I should not be asking or expecting a Black woman to cheer me up when I have to cheer me up. Like she's got to cheer her own self up. Like how is she supposed to be cheering me up? And if I'm coming in being negative, then I am bringing down her vibe. And that is really, really, really harmful behavior. And I know that I do that. And I'm working on not doing that anymore.
Yeah, the responsibility, taking full responsibility for how we're showing up in space, right?
Yes. And if I need someone to talk about my anxieties and things with, leaning on a white sister to have that conversation, because those feelings are real. I mean, it's not like I can just, turn the on off switch and they just go away, right? But not draining when I'm in interaction with Black women, to be nutritive, to be like elevating the vibe, not turning the vibe down.
Or at least, we talked about this at the sisterhood too, asking the question, do you have the mental, spiritual, physical bandwidth to hear me? Right? Because people walk around as garbage trucks all the time, and you just want to friggin' dump on people, and like not knowing, hey, I just had an argument with my kid, right? Like you're literally calling me after I just got done arguing with my kid, and I have to like try to emotionally regulate, or like, oh yeah, I just got turned down for 5 proposals, but like, yeah, listen to your garbage dumping of what just happened. So I think we have to be mindful to care and to love our sister. And you can't do that if you are not present in the moment by saying, hey, do you have space for me? Do you have space for me? Hey, Trish, do you have space for me? Because we carry the weight of everybody. Okay. Black women carry the weight of everybody. So then what I would urge you to ask is, how many other people did I just have to talk to in here because I am the safe space for others? So now I just carried 5 conversation, and you're like, but I just want to take 5 minutes of your time. Yeah, that's awesome. Because you're 5 minutes of my time. I just had 10 other conversations this week with 10 other different people. So it's not just 5 minutes. It actually is we are beacons of safety. So there is so much we're carrying that you didn't even ask about. And that's why we ask people, can you just pause and ask us, do you have the space for me right now? And if we don't have the space, who else are your people that you could go verbally vomit on if that's what you need to do? And I would also urge people, if you have the safe space, that's awesome. And then also, how could you be the safe space for other people too? Because the people you are dumping on, also the strong people are tired. So who is the strong person going to have somebody to listen to them, because they are filled up by listening to others?
Definitely.
Yeah. Karen, something you said about, leaning on thank you, Future. That deeply appreciate what you shared there. It's so important and so valid for sure. And Karen, you said something about, reaching out to my white sisters. And I think this work is really important for us as white women to learn and understand how to be in relationship together. We don't know how. We are, just steeped in the patriarchal system, the hierarchical system of how, to climb that ladder, and we don't know how to come together and be with one another in love and connection without stepping on one another's backs. And I think that is where one of the big pieces around working in Interracial Sisterhood Coalition, helping and understanding and building those bridges together with us as well. So, yeah.
That is a good point. It's hard to be in relation when you don't know how to.
That's not to negate the anything of what you said, Future, around how important it is for us white men to not dump on our women of global majority sisters, for sure.
So we are going to be wrapping this conversation up, but we do want to share an upcoming resource that we are offering to really learn about the key learnings and the key behaviors that white women need to change in order to make interracial sisterhood possible. And I'm going to put the link to join us for that in the chat. This is going to be on the 24th. We are hosting a webinar, and you can register via the links that I'm going to put in the chat. And we're going to focus on what are those key behaviors for earning trust and building interracial sisterhood and solidarity. So please join us for that conversation. We will also be highlighting some of the research that indicates how far we are divided, that have been divided for hundreds of years in our perception of what is going on and what is needed to heal things. And Future and I always say 405 years of division is enough. We are not going to pass this to the next generation. We need to be the generation that finally heals this divide.
Okay, so if all of you could say, because I know we have like 3 minutes, who do you think this upcoming, because we have audio next week. So we have a LinkedIn audio is coming next week. I know some people want to ask questions. So that audio room will give people a space to just hear or raise the question that you want to ask. What we're asking people to do is, if you have questions, we would like people to think on it before, the sisters that are coming to share a space to lift their voices. So if you have questions, please DM or put them below this live, what the questions are that you're searching for. If it's more private and you don't want people to know that you're asking the questions, then we honor that too. And we would ask you to just DM Karen or myself. So that's the one thing. And then the following week, we're doing the webinar. What or who do you think would be best to come? Because we know that this work isn't for everybody, right? Like, as much as I want every woman to come, I don't think some women are on that path at this point to say, yep, I'm coming to this one. So if you could put in 1 or 2 sentences, who do you think this webinar would best serve, or what questions do you think the women are sitting in that this webinar would best serve? That would be my question to everybody here, to help people that are listening, right, get an idea of like, hey, is this going to be a good place for me to come?
I'll start it off just for the sake of time. I think that anyone who is already asking the questions or asking themselves the questions about why is there so much homogeny in my space? And what can I do to change that? Is this a problem? And questions of that nature, I think that person belongs in the space.
I would add in there specifically, I think white women who are asking themselves the question of, why am I continuing to stay silent? And I would also add in there that have done some self-reflection on the answer to that question.
I would add that women who have been taking the time to study, and actually I'm reading all the books, but then I'm asking, what can I do? How can I bring this to life to create some change, some effective change? Yeah, that would be someone who I think would benefit.
Karen, do you have any ads?
Sorry, I was a little distracted. I was looking for the link to the audio and I could not find it. So I will post it later. I would say all of what you just said. And one of the most important things is that we learn to take action, that we actually do something, even if it's imperfect, right? that we don't get stuck in the introspection and the book clubs, which are great for raising awareness. But guess what? That doesn't do anything to actually dismantle systemic racism. So we have to get out there in the world. And I know a lot of white women want to do something and don't know what that something is. And that's what we are here to help you to do, both to work on yourself and work on your relationships. And once we're in strong relationship, then it will be clear what to do, right? It will be informed by your relationship, how you can be helpful, what is needed to change.
So what about like final words? If you all could give a message to white women, what's the message? What's the message that you think you needed to hear, you know, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago in regards to interracial sisterhood, or you had hoped, or you still need to hear now, or you think that they need to hear? What would that message be as we close out?
I will speak. I will say, white women, I have so much compassion and empathy for us. And, you know, as a white woman named Karen, people are like, well, aren't you mad about your name being a thing? And I'm like, no, I see my name as a call for accountability. And I don't want us to shirk our responsibility because it makes us feel bad about ourselves. I understand why we feel bad about ourselves. And it's all by design. Our true sisters are global majority women. And when we can truly unite with global majority women, we can make a society where we all thrive. As long as we remain divided, things are just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. So I'm asking you, I'm inviting you, please become part of this coalition. We are needed in this coalition. And you are needed in this coalition, and it's going to make you feel so, so, so much better.
I think one of the things that you all talk about is, you know, uniting not only across difference, but healing ourselves, our communities, our workplaces, how important that is. And then we're not doing that. What is it? You know, what is this all worth? What's the point, right? And so, I have something in my mind that I want to say, but it's not, you know, it's like, get off your effing asses and let's go. You know, that's what I think. And that's what I needed to hear. And it's just, that's what we need to do. We need to do the work. It's hard work, and but it's vital.
I would build on to what Randy said, and I had shared a post in our white women accountability group that I think summed it up for me really nicely. Like, we need you. And no matter how big or small the action you take is, it's all connected and it's all working to pull down the threads of white supremacy culture. So just join us, please.
And I would encourage that this work is not for the weak. And this is on both sides, global majority women, white women. It's not for the weak. I would encourage one to think, again, global majority and white women, that going into anti-racism, social justice work is not about losing friends, but rather gaining sisters, gaining sisterhood, and it is so worth the work. That's my encouragement. So please join us.
I think my words would be, this is hurting all of us. No person is unwounded from this system. And I know each of us envisions a greater future where all of us can thrive, where all of us could be joyful and happy majority of the time on any given day. And that doesn't come with a cost of pushing something to evolve to be better than what it is. And we can't do it alone. And at the same time, I have faith that people standing right now will choose, because it's a conscious choice, to be a cycle breaker and a change maker, because there's so much more once you push through the fear. There's so much beauty.
Thank you. Thank you, Future. That was a beautiful, beautiful way for us to wind down. And I thank you, Randy, for sending me the link to the audio. I'm putting that in the chat. So please send us your questions, DM us your questions, or comment with your questions, and join us next week, the 18th, for this audio. The link is now in the chat. And thank you all so much, Future, Montrese, Corey, Randy, and everyone who joined us. It's so beautiful to see your face, Naomi, Raquel, and Wright, and everybody else, for your thoughtful comments. And we will see you on the 18th, and keep building interracial sisterhood.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.